Hi, welcome back to the Daily Increment. I'm Daniel Susser, Agile Coach, and today we're going to talk about planning just in time and forecasting. So in Agile, we have an issue with forecasting. How can you help your business understand when your work is going to be done without planning in excruciating detail and making it harder for you to change direction? So yesterday we spoke about how a minimal viable product approach helps you have an opportunity to learn quickly if you're doing the right thing or if you're doing the wrong thing. So the whole point of that is that if you're doing the wrong thing, you should be able to change direction. So the way that you can avoid being stuck in a bad plan is by not having too many plans in the future. If I've got a year's worth of really detailed planning sorted out and lined up and Excel spreadsheeted to the nines, it makes it hard for me to change direction when I learn that I'm doing the wrong thing. On the other hand, you need to have enough information about what's coming up in your work to be able to give your stakeholders, other members of the team, other people who are trying to help you enough information to know when to line themselves up and to be ready for you. So the approach here is just-in-time planning on the one hand, and using cycle time and throughput to give relatively useful, not pinpoint accurate, but useful forecasts of when the work is going to be done. So a note here about why I'm saying useful and not pinpoint accurate. And the reason I'm saying that is because no plan can be 100% accurate to the date. Do you want to know the proof of that? And that is anytime you've tried to plan something in excruciating detail and been wrong. So in a world where we don't know every single step and the consequence of every single step, you can't have planned everything in advance because it's what we call a complicated versus a complex scenario. We'll do an episode on Kinefin another time where we can go into more detail about that. But essentially, we assume that we can't know every single thing about what's going to go right and wrong, and therefore pinpoint accurate dates for when this thing is going to be ready are not useful, and they're often not true. What you can do is say, this piece of work that I'm doing now is a similar size to this other piece of work I did. And it's actually a similar size to 10 other pieces of work I did. And if you look at the average cycle time, i.e. the average amount of time it took me between starting that work and finishing it, it was 2 weeks per item. So each of these took 2 weeks. There were 10 of them. So we've got a pretty solid average there of 2 weeks per feature. We've got what looks like a similar size feature. So let's go with 2 weeks as a forecast of how long it's going to take us once we start. And then you can, at a very rough level, give your stakeholders and give the rest of your business some amount of metric-based, rational prediction about when you're going to be done. Prediction, not commitment. Because it might be longer. It might be this thing is more, the thing you're working on now is actually more complex than the 10 things that happened in the past. But you can at least give them an informed view. And in terms of the stuff that's more closely coming up, the stuff that you're working on right now, you should be breaking that down into more detail, because it's important that the work that the team is working on right now, they have a very granular and a very fine understanding of it, so that they do the right thing and don't get on each other's toes. So for this, we do a little bit of upfront planning on the work that is coming up right now, and try and get the balance right between having enough of that really well-defined, well-understood work so that we can progress through it and chew through it quickly, but not so much planning that you've got like 5 or 6 or 7 months fully planned work ahead of you. And how much work you want to have planned at any one time versus how much is unplanned is going to be dependent on your business and your context and what's useful. But just bear in mind that all the time you spend planning something that's in the future is planning work that you might have to throw away if you find out you need to change direction, you're doing the wrong thing. So in terms of how you can use that very planned work to give a more accurate forecast, well, the more you break down the work and the more historical data you have about that size of work, the more accurate your forecast can be. So for example, if you have a user story, and we can do a better, longer episode on user stories another time, but if you have a user story that consists of 10 small subtasks, and you have quite a good sense that all these subtasks are the same size, and you know that subtasks of a similar size took you could do 10 of them per week, historically speaking. So for the last month or two, we've done 10 subtasks per week on average. Then for your refined work, you can say, well, I've got 20 subtasks left to do, 10 per week. that means 2 times 10, 20. And it'll take me 2 weeks to get through that feature. And again, even with the more granular stuff, it's still a forecast because you don't know what you're going to come across. So in Agile, if you're working on the most important, most valuable feature, and if you've broken that feature down into its really small constituent parts so that it's a minimal viable product, then the fact that it's taking you longer should be of less concern to people because they know that you're focusing all of your attention on finishing the most important, valuable part of the whole package of work. Whereas if you're planning a bigger project and you're taking a long time, then it jeopardizes everything to be held up. It jeopardizes the valuable stuff and the non-valuable stuff. So in Agile, we prioritize the minimal viable product, which is the most valuable thing. We align the team on how to deliver it. We do a lot of upfront planning for the very, very small bit that we need to be releasing and to be finishing. And we can give longer term forecasts based on historical data or cycle times of how long it takes us to do stuff. And that avoids the approach of needing to plan everything in excruciating detail and then making it harder to change your plans. See you tomorrow.